What's up guys, today I have something a little bit different for you. I'm going to do a tutorial, so I'm going to show you how to draw anything without having to do a sketch in advance. We're also going to be using really inexpensive art supplies, that way you guys know at home you don't have to break the bank to make some good art. So today I'm drawing this mason jar full of brushes, but I encourage you to draw anything around you and you can just follow along with the technique. So as you can see, we're going to be drawing with highlighters. Now I know all of you have to have a couple highlighters laying around the house. They're really inexpensive and they're actually a really great art supply. So to pull off this technique, you want to start with your lightest color. In this case, it's yellow. So basically, we're going to be working in reverse. So the most common way to draw is to start with a really light sketch, right? Using pencil, and then you can slowly layer up from there. So when you use that technique, you're really looking for line to create your drawing. But when you draw this way, you're looking for shape. So instead of spending my time drawing every nitty-gritty detail, I'm really just focused on big strokes and capturing an entire silhouette. But I always make sure I leave a couple spaces white because those will be my highlights at the very end. So once I was happy with what I created with the yellow, I moved on to my orange highlighter. Now we're going to be drawing with the same exact mindset. We're looking for shape instead of line. But since our yellow is acting as our lightest area, the orange is going to be the mid-tone. So at this point, you can start to bring out some of your shadows. So now we're going to shift over to my favorite water-based markers, the Tombow Dual Brush Markers. So of course, these are going to be a bit more expensive than the highlighters, but compared to some alcohol-based markers, these are a third of the price. So just like I started to carve out some details with my orange highlighter, I'm going to start to do the same thing with this red marker. So number one most important thing is that I'm looking at my reference a lot. I'm identifying where the light is hitting my object, where my shadows are, and I'm using this darker marker to push out the lighter areas and push back the darker areas. This is also a great chance for you to start defining the forms of your object. So as you can see, I'm throwing in the ellipses of my jar, and of course those got a little wonky, but I wasn't that worried about it. This is just a doodle for fun. I don't take these drawings super seriously. They're really just for me to relax and have a little bit of fun. So as you can see, even though we're working really loosely, since we have those three contrasting colors, we were still able to capture a lot of form. But we still had a little ways to go, so then I brought out my green Tombow marker, which I think is a great choice for layering on top of oranges and reds. It really just keeps things saturated, but also gives you a really nice dark tone. So we're using the same exact technique as we did with the red marker, except we're doing even less. So just a couple areas that can be a little bit darker, and that's it. So as you can see, we've already established a pretty wide range of value. We have some lights, we have some darks, we have some midtones, and that's a great place to be. So at this point, we're ready for some details. So I love the Pentel Sign Pen, so we're going to be using this to make things pop just a little bit more. But of course, if you don't have something like this laying around and you're trying to look for a cheap alternative, any black pen, a Sharpie, as long as it's fine tip, will work just fine. So I just want to point out, this is the first time in the entire drawing that we're starting to use line. So it's a great tool for defining things, but I don't like it when it becomes the focus of the piece. So this is when we're going to have to pick and choose a little bit what we want to bring out. I think a good thing to keep in the back of your head is that not everything has to be outlined the exact same way. So just by choosing a couple of these brush handles to outline with this black, I can give the viewer the impression that they're all the exact same without actually having to make those marks. So I think that adds a lot of visual interest. It keeps things really loose and a little bit more free-flowing than if you were to outline everything. Your drawing will become tight very quickly and you'll start to lose that looseness, and that's what I really love. Of course, if you like to outline everything, go for it. That's typically not my style. So at this point in the drawing, as you guys could probably already tell, I'm flip-flopping a little bit more between all of my supplies. I'm still working fairly quickly, but I'm really sure that I'm asking myself questions like, okay, what really needs more definition? What areas should I focus on? What's lacking? And what areas look great the way they are and maybe don't need as much definition? So this back and forth questioning process is really essential, especially at this point in a drawing where you still have the opportunity to make significant changes. And of course, you are the artist, so you want to come up with the answers to these questions yourself. But if you're using a reference photo or you're drawing from life, make sure you're looking up a lot and not burying your head. Your eyes are a lot more important than your hand when you're drawing. So make sure you're looking, and then drawing. Now don't be too hard on yourself. Drawing from life comes with a lot of practice, but the more you do it, the better you'll be able to translate certain features that make an object look real into a drawing. So at this point, I was pretty happy with what things were looking like, but those bristles on the brushes were definitely screaming out at me for a little bit of help, so I had to focus on those a little bit and give them a little more definition and a little more shadow. But yeah, this is really just a slow layering process, so I'm using markers, but not once have I really blended anything. This is really about identifying light and shadows and slowly building up. But actually we're drawing kind of quick, but you know what I mean. And also, now that we're a little zoomed in, you can see how messy this drawing really is. And I'm not that concerned with all the nitty gritty, like, oh, is this line really clean? It's really about the full picture when you pull away from it. So don't worry about every single mark you make being really clean and perfect. I don't really think that matters. But yeah, now we're back to black, adding a little more definition and a little more shadows on the jar to make things pop. Now I love to finish up my drawings with this white Posca marker. It really gives you that last opportunity to bring some whites back into your drawing that may have been lost earlier, because we went a little crazy. But yeah, get yourself one of these, or there's a couple other brands. I just like this one because the nib is a little fatter, and I like the acrylic flow. But yeah, I think at this point we're pretty much done. I usually psych myself out a little bit towards the end of a drawing and go a little crazy and start darkening things more, just because I realize things could be darker. So I think I'm doing that a little bit with the orange. But that's what drawing is all about. It's kind of like a constant tug of like, oh, like if I add a little bit more here, then I can add a little bit more there. And you know what they say. You never really finish a drawing, you just abandon it. You can work on the same thing for an entire lifetime. And like that's what they said Leonardo da Vinci would do. Like I think there's like only 20 paintings identified from him, and of course maybe some were lost, but you could work on a painting for 10 years if you wanted to and never finish it. Yeah, I do go back in here, give a little more definition to the brushes. Maybe I was overdoing it at this point, who really knows? You can stop whenever you want. I could have stopped halfway through and called it done, or I could have worked on it for another 2 hours. But anyways, yeah, yep. Are we done yet? Okay, we're almost done. All right, cool. So I think this is the finished piece. Total time, I want to say, was about 45 minutes. But yeah. So hopefully you guys liked this and found it helpful. You can use the same technique to draw just about anything. I use it all the time. It's more of my playful drawing style. So I use this a lot if I'm drawing messes or just doodling from life. So it's a really fun technique. I hope you use it. And if you do use it, tag me on Instagram or TikTok, whatever you're using. It's Matthew Sorgi on all platforms. I would love to see it. I believe this is our 6-week streak. Very excited to be here. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, I've got prints, and yeah, I'll see you next week.